Django has been around since 2005. Now, in tech years, that's practically ancient. So the big question is, as we head into 2026, is it still relevant or is it just a dinosaur? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out. Everything you really need to know about Django boils down to this one simple phrase. You've got to remember, this framework was born in a newsroom. We're talking crazy high-pressure deadlines day in and day out. So from the very beginning, it was all about building stuff fast, but also building stuff that just wouldn't break. And that core idea, it's still the heart and soul of Django today. And this leads us to its central philosophy, batteries included. I mean, think about it. When you get a new gadget, you don't want to have to go hunt for batteries, right? You just want it to work. That's Django. It gives you almost everything you could possibly need right out of the box. Authentication, an admin panel, you name it. The whole point is to stop developers from constantly reinventing the wheel. So instead of spending days building a secure login system from scratch, you use a battle-tested one that's already there. It saves a ton of time and, let's be honest, a lot of headaches. Okay, so perfectionists with deadlines sounds great, but what does that actually look like when you're writing code? Let's dig into the principles that really make Django tick. So you can see a few key ideas here working together. Batteries included, we just covered that. Less setup, more consistency. Then there's dry, or don't repeat yourself. This one is huge. It's all about writing a piece of code once and then reusing it, which makes maintaining your project so much easier down the road. And shared nothing? It sounds a bit technical, but just think of it like this. Each part of your application can pretty much run on its own. Now, why does that matter? Well, it makes it way easier to scale up when your site gets popular. It's kind of like having a team where everyone can work independently without tripping over each other. So, those are the principles. Now let's take a look at how they actually shape the way you build a website with Django. Here's the basic flow. A user clicks a link, right? First, the URL dispatcher acts like a traffic cop. It sees that request and goes, okay, you need to go to this specific view. The view is the brain of the operation. It holds all the business logic. It might think, for this page, I need some data. So it talks to the model to pull that in from the database. Once it has the data, it just hands it off to the template, which is basically an HTML file with some placeholders. The template fills in the blanks with the data, and boom, you've got a web page. The key here is that everything has its own job. The data, the logic, and the presentation are all kept separate and clean. Now, if you're coming from other frameworks, you might be thinking, hey, this sounds a lot like MVC, Model View Controller. And you're absolutely right. It's basically Django's take on that classic pattern. The main thing to wrap your head around is that what Django calls a view is really the controller in the MVC world. It handles all the logic. And what Django calls a template is the view. It handles how everything looks. It's a subtle difference in naming, but it shows that same commitment to separating concerns. And the magic that connects your code to your database? That's the ORM, the Object Relational Mapper. This thing is kind of like a universal translator. It means you, the developer, get to write simple, clean Python code to do things with your database. You don't have to write raw, complicated SQL queries. The ORM translates your Python into SQL for you. This is a total game changer because it means you could switch your database from, say, Postgres to MySQL, and you'd barely have to change any of your code. It's incredibly powerful. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about something that's absolutely critical in today's world, security. Because this is an area where Django really truly shines. It's built like a fortress. And I mean that literally. In Django, security isn't some extra feature or a plugin you add later on. It's not an afterthought. It is baked right into the very core of the framework. It's designed from the ground up to automatically protect you from some of the nastiest, most common vulnerabilities out there. Just take a look at this list. SQL injection, that universal translator we just talked about, the ORM, pretty much eliminates that threat by its very design. Cross-site scripting, the template system automatically sanitizes user input to prevent it. Cross-site request forgery, clickjacking, yep, handled. And the best part? All of this is on by default. You don't have to remember to turn it on. It's just there, protecting you. Django is just as serious when it comes to passwords. It never ever stores them in plain text. It uses strong, industry-standard hashing algorithms. But here's the really cool part. It has a feature called automatic password upgrading. So let's say a user's password was hashed with an older, weaker algorithm years ago. The next time they log in, Django automatically rehashes their password with the newest, strongest standard, all without anyone having to lift a finger. It literally future-proofs your security. So, with all this talk of stability and security, you might be thinking Django is old-fashioned or slow, but that's just not the case. It's been evolving in a huge way to meet the demands of the modern web. This is probably one of the biggest shifts in recent years. Django is now a dual-mode framework. This means it can handle the traditional, one thing at a time, synchronous code, but it also fully supports modern asynchronous code. Think about any time your app just has to wait for something, like an API response from another server. Async lets your app do other useful work while it's waiting, instead of just sitting there. This is massive for building real-time features like chat applications or live data dashboards. And if you look at the official roadmap, you can see this is a huge focus. They're not just tacking on async support, they are baking it deeper into the framework's core, into things like authentication and permissions. They are all in on making Django a first-class citizen in the modern async world. Okay, so the tech is solid, it's secure, and it's forward-looking. But let's get down to it. What does all this mean for real-world performance? And, maybe more importantly, what does it mean for your career? Now, let's be real. If you look at raw speed tests for API requests, a super lightweight, async-first framework like FastAPI is gonna win. The numbers don't lie. But, and this is a really big but, that number doesn't tell the whole story. It's like comparing a stripped-down race car to a fully equipped RV. The race car is faster, no doubt, but the RV has a kitchen, a bathroom, and beds. Django's real strength isn't just raw request per second, it's development velocity, how fast you can build a complete, secure, and maintainable application. It really boils down to this fundamental choice. Django is all about convention over configuration. It gives you a strong, opinionated structure. It's like getting a detailed blueprint for building a house. Frameworks like Flask or FastAPI are more like getting a box of high-end tools and lumber. They give you total freedom, which is awesome for specialized tasks like microservices or blazing fast APIs. But with Django, you're not getting bogged down by a million tiny decisions, which is a massive advantage for bigger, more complex projects. And that commitment to structure and reliability, it translates directly into job security and good money. Just to give you an example, in early 2026, the average salary for Django developer in a major tech hub like Florida is already over $86,000. That tells you that companies are willing to pay a premium for the stability and expertise that Django developers bring to the table. And it's not just one niche industry either. The demand is incredibly diverse. You've got Department of Defense contractors in the Panhandle building complex flight simulators. You've the giant fintech players like JP Morgan and Citi in Central Florida who absolutely need rock-solid security. And then in South Florida, you've got a booming scene of SaaS companies that rely on Django's scalability to grow. It's just incredibly versatile. So this brings us right back to that original question. After all this time, after more than 2 decades, is Django a dinosaur? Or is it a pillar? And I think the answer is pretty clear. In the tech world, we often think new is always better. But with Django, its maturity is its killer feature. Its greatest strength isn't chasing every hot new fad. It's predictability. It's stability. And for businesses building systems they need to rely on for the next decade or more, that kind of predictability is worth its weight in gold. So that really leaves you with one final question to think about for your next project. Do you need a box of parts, or do you need a blueprint? Do you need the absolute freedom to build anything from scratch, or do you need a proven plan to help you build something strong, secure, and made to last? The answer to that will tell you everything you need to know.